YouTube, we are back, and this is the third section of the first form, the little idea, Sil Lim Tao. Okay, go back to see the first two videos to cover. All right, we're going to wrap up this section. The third section is we have the immovable elbow section. So in the first section, I talked about the stance being a tripod. You're learning to draw that energy up from the earth. You're storing it, and then you're getting out your weapons. We learned about the elbow position being down, Pock Sao 3 times, negating both outside and inside energy. You learned about centerline. Your first movement was learning to bring that elbow in and feed the punch forward. Second section, we had the energy stored in. Now we're going to get rid of it. Getting rid of it. 2 hands using a motion to get it out. Doesn't necessarily mean that it's 2 hands at the same time. Okay, elbows out, elbows in, getting them in, firing forward. There's a bunch of things we learned in the second section. Third section. All right, and here's the sequence. I'm going to do it left side only for the sake of time, and everything we do on the left side, we repeat on the right side. So the first movement I'm going to do is I'm going to do a Pock Sao, just like I did in the first section, which comes out past 90 degrees and is in line with where my delt and pec meet. Okay, I don't, like the first form, or the first section, return to center and then strike. In the first section, that's a concept we learned. We learned that no matter where our position is, you return to center and strike. So I'm out of position, return to center and strike. Okay, that's what that's teaching us. Return to center and strike. You're basically respecting your center line. Pock Sao. From here, we're learning that the elbow is going to fuel every strike we have. I've already got an extension out. I'm going to drop my elbow and fire forward. Tan Sao, Yun Sao, chamber. And then you repeat that on the right side. Pock Sao, Tan Sao, or Pock Sao, elbow in, fire it forward. Tan Sao, Yun Sao, chamber. So at the beginning of the third section, we already see that our elbow, again, has to have a relationship with the rest of our body, and our elbow is going to be the payload. We're delivering all that energy from our elbow. It is not, well, the sequence is I visualize somebody throwing in a punch, I pock, and then strike them on the outside of their jaw. You're learning off the bat to drive that elbow forward. Elbow doesn't move. Drive it forward again, just like a snake. Wing Chun was developed by watching a snake in a crane fight. The snake doesn't bring its head back and punch. The snake fires from wherever it's at. Snake just fires forward. So 1, you're learning to use the body of the snake to fire the head forward. Okay? Just like in the first section where I had 2 different Pock Saos, where 1, the elbow stays forward, or excuse me, 2 different Wu Saos, and then we Pock Sao forward, and then the elbow draws back. We do the same thing to respect the lineages of Tan Saos. So many people argue that the Tan Sao is either on center for practical application or on line with the shoulder. So in our series, we do them both way. Okay? When the first form first came out, Wang Shengliang had introduced the Gan Sao. So there was no Gan Sao in the beginning. So we follow that. I come right down center for my Tan Sao, feed that energy forward. I drop to Jum Sao. I feed Tan Sao from my elbow up and forward. So I come up rising and forward. I load by doing a Yun Sao. I've got this much distance between my elbow and the rest of my body, again, teaching me my proper distance for striking. Just like the snake, I learn to move and strike. And then again with the elbow, rise up Tan Sao. So it looks like this. Tan, Jum, Tan, load with the Yun Sao, strike, lift with the elbow, Tan Sao. Yun Sao, grab, chamber. It's a leverage issue again. If you put your intent here in your hand and try to lift something up, you're going to have too much space between you and your core, and it's going to be leverage. You put your intent in your elbow and lift up, you're going to get a lot more power. We're going to show you these in application as time goes on. They are very difficult to see when it comes down to, what are these applications for in the form? Right now, you're just learning to feel your tools. In the next couple of weeks, now that we have the first form broken down, I'm going to show you why are we using them. So that's one side. Then we do the other side. Tan, Jum, Tan, press, lift, Yun, chamber. For the second acknowledgement of the second Tan Sao being a shoulder length, I come across my body. I start at my shoulder. I come forward and stop at my other shoulder line. From here, I drop right down center to Gan Sao. Up and forward. back to Tan Sao. I load with the Yun Sao, strike with a palm strike, rise with the Tan Sao, Yun Sao, grab, and chamber. So what you're seeing is come across to Tan. Look at the movement what I'm doing here. I'm coming across here. Have somebody pin you. If you can't move your arm like this. But what you're learning off the bat is that two motions. You can thread and go forward into them. And I'll show you as time goes on. And you don't just get somebody, pin him, have him pin you down. Get your stance, have him give him a good amount of pressure, and try and muscle out. It goes right in your shoulder. But if you come forward, stop at your center line or your shoulder line, you're reinforced. So you're learning those two motions again. Boom, shoulder. Drop down to Gan Sao. Remember I told you in the Gan Sao video, we don't sweep past our leg. We drop down to Gan Sao because the turn is what does all the work. Back corkscrew up to Tan Sao. Yun Sao, load, load, load. We are learning our elbow position. Strike, Tan Sao, Yun Sao, grab, chamber. A lot of people call this the third section the immovable elbow section because, look, I'm going from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's not so much. Maybe back in long bridge days when people fought, from here to here, but we're talking about now understanding the leverage and power you develop from your elbow with association from the rest of the body. Remember, my Wing Chun doesn't believe in some mystic, ancient secret where the caterpillar can beat the hawk. I don't think that happens. I think we have to understand, okay, we're in America, and Americans are bigger by nature thanks to the crap food that we wind up poisoning our system with. How does a little man like me fight a giant? You guys saw Mike in the last video. You've seen Nick. You even see Syed is a little bit bigger than me. How is my Wing Chun going to be able to destroy these men? By understanding my own tools. It's not the immovable elbow theory. It's the association with your elbow with the rest of your body theory and leverage. You're already offering a Tan Sao out. That's a leverage position. You've got to understand that the elbow drops. The elbow starts, that Gan Sao drops it down, not just the hand. We don't pivot on the elbow. You start with the elbow. Here's the tail end of the whip, dropping it down. The elbow pushing that Tan forward. The elbow dropping that jump down. The elbow pushing that Tan back out forward. The elbow loading that strike. The elbow rising that Tan Sao. The elbow does all the work. The elbow coming across the body and then pushing into a Tan Sao. And then dropping down Gan, rising back up Tan, pressing down Yun, coming back up with Tan again. Remember, in the training, you're going to keep everything static. It's going to look perfect. In actual fight, it may be here, 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 with the assistance of your core and the rest of your structure. Okay? But you have to understand how this works with this first. Okay? Then we have the Bong Sao section. Bong Sao, one of the most misunderstood tools in Wing Chun. Okay? Start with Tan Sao. You think of a wine key, a corkscrew. I start to feed out my Tan Sao right down center. And then again, with my elbow, I don't just lift, I lift and press forward. I'm feeding my hand forward, corkscrewing forward. Turn my shoulder off, feeding forward. Connect the hips, okay, like we talked about in the first section. From here, I don't just drop down to Tan, I drop down with forwarding energy with Tan. Every single thing you do has got to have forwarding energy. You've got to embrace that in Wing Chun. We'll talk about what this is. What elbow break? We're going to talk about up the face, one of my favorite techniques. Okay, you're going to see how even from position here, 1, 2, you have energy from this position. It's short range power. You don't need to get all the way to third form to understand how Bill G teaches getting energy to the wrist. It's in the first form. And when you learn the third form, you go, oh gosh, I should have seen that all the way back in the first form. You're already learning it. Okay, there's no secret techniques in Wing Chun. First form is the most important tool that we have. So Bong, Tan, Tok, Tan Sao, Yun Sao, chamber, repeat on the other side. Then we finish Gan Sao. People talk about this being a wrist grab scraping movement. No, again, you're understanding the elbows. Getting ready to load and go again. Load, 2, 3, 1, 2, chamber the third, Tan Sao, Yun Sao. Now we have all this stored up energy in our system from the first section. You got to return it. You breathe and you return that energy where it came from. That's it. That's the third section. Okay, what we're learning, the most important values are understanding that elbow is present in everything we do. I don't care what your hands look like in the movement, and if you turn your hands off and do them, and if you're sloppy, and some people will say, well, in your Yun Taos, your elbows will flare out a little bit. Sure, it's my Wing Chun, it's my form. I am paying attention to the association between this point, where the energy is coming out of, which is my weapon over here, my fist, my palm, pisiform bone, inside of the hand here, fingertips. This is delivering it, and then this is the counterbalance. Okay, 50 caliber machine gun. You don't shoulder mount those to fight them. They're on a tripod. And if it doesn't have anything for that stable base, it's going to fire and then misfire. Okay? I do know from a fact in the range, I was getting misfires out of my Glock several years ago because my grip was either too tight or too loose. I didn't have in the middle ground. So if that recoil fires back, it doesn't have a good base to fire back on, you're going to get a misfire. You're going to get a jam. Same thing. You've got to understand the relationship between your core, firing this out, and still here. One joint, your spine, your hips, your knees, your feet, everything going out, okay? So again, just like the second section, there's so much more to these forms, but this is a taste of what I always pay attention to. First section, you pay attention to your stance and the relationship between elbow pointed down, your center line. Second section, we go over getting the power out of your body, recovering towards your center line right away when your elbow's out of position. Third section, you've got your elbows in position. How do you use them? And all your tools are there in an extended arm period. Remember, this is a display stance in Wing Chun. You don't fight like this. You will most likely fight like this, but your tools are going to be used. That's your best distance. But now that they're out here, do you know how to use this short-range power? Do you know with an extension how to drop down this short-range power, drop down this power, drop down this power, drop this power down, all by having this with an association for the rest of this? And that third section teaches you that. It does not teach you, oh, here comes a low punch, I'm going to block it. Oh, here comes a high punch, I'm going to block it. Oh, here comes a low punch, I'm going to unit and strike. If you stay static like that in today's fighting, you're going to get mowed over, knocked on your ass, and then somebody's going to be taken you to the hospital. All right? This is really quick, just covering the third section of the third form. We're going to be going over the ideas behind these in the next series videos. Okay? So now that we have these movements, now that you're paying attention to yourself, why are you using them? In my opinion, this is one of the reasons that Bruce Lee did not teach forms. Because, what was he, 13 to 19 learning Wing Chun? That's still a kid's mentality. He probably did not have the patience to understand why they did the forms in the first place. And he didn't develop the skills to do the forms. So he saw the forms as a series of movements. Block, 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 block. No, there's a lot more of the forms going on. And we're going to teach you the energy applications in relation to your body and responses for incoming energy in the next couple of videos. All right? Thanks much. We'll see you in the next video.